So my favorite set to talk about, Prismatic Evolutions. I previously made a video yesterday talking about how this set is hated and it's controversial. Hopefully you guys like that video. But today I want to talk about why it's going to be very interesting now to see what happens with Prismatic Evolutions. So recently, right, we've had some restocks, I guess a confirmed reprint of Prismatic Evolutions products. So we had some restocks of about, at this point, has it been a couple months? The Pokemon Center Elite Trainer boxes, we had a restock of those, which was great. I was able to pick some up at a pretty good price. I'm happy about those. And then we had also the normal ETBs. They also got restocked, right? It wasn't a reprint, it was a restock, right? Usually that happens after sets are released, and a few months later they get restocked. You know, that's what happened to the ETBs. Some other products also got restocked, some tech sticker collection, some small stuff on the Pokemon Center website. I remember. Also, I guess this was, I think, technically a confirmed reprint. The surprise boxes, those went down a lot in price. I'm pretty sure that was a reprint. So we've recently had a lot of restocks, and I guess that reprint, and also most recently we've also had the Costco bundle, right? The two ETBs and the two booster bundles, and I guess in the warehouses, in stores, it was like a one ETB, one bundle, I guess thing. So we've had a lot of restocks, but not really any reprints, and that's a big thing I want to emphasize here. So like I said, the only really reprint I think we've technically really had are those surprise boxes. But we've never seen any real reprint, specifically with the ETB, right? Because we had a restock of the ETB, and then after the restock of the ETB, we had the Costco bundles. So technically, none of those were reprints, and that's a big thing to understand. And that's why this is going to be very interesting to see what happens now with Prismatic Evolutions, because everybody has been calling out, right, that Prismatic Evolutions, it's going to get, printed into the ground and stuff. It's going to MSRP. It's that argument, and I don't want to get into that argument now, but that's the argument that's being made in the whole space, right? Is it going to MSRP or not? Now, in my opinion, obviously you guys know what my opinion is. I don't think it's going to, but that's why it's going to be interesting, is because we haven't gotten any reprints yet. So if everybody, who's saying that it's going to get reprinted in the ground, and things are going to go to MSRP, we are going to see that now, right? Because we are coming off of restocks, not reprints. So finally, now that I think we're, sort of done with this whole restock phase of all these products, now is when the real reprints are going to come in, right? These now probably aren't going to be any restocks because they've already done those. We're going to actually see some real reprints now. So we're going to really see if Prismatic Evolutions, if these products go to MSRP. And starting with the ETB. Now this one is the most interesting one, because obviously when you talk about Prismatic Evolutions is going to MSRP, you have to specify what product you're talking about, because it's not the same. Because let's say, Pokemon decides to reprint a ton of Prismatic Evolutions poster collection boxes. Let's say they decide to reprint a ton of those, and they don't reprint the ETB. The ETB isn't going to drop much in price, right? And I'll show you guys a perfect example of what I mean by that with 151 here. So it really is important to, I guess, specify what product you're talking about. Are you talking about ETBs going to MSRP? Are you talking about poster collections? Are you talking about booster bundles? It depends on what product you're talking about. Now, if you're talking about ETBs going to MSRP, that is the most interesting thing that I think we're going to see here. If they reprint ETBs, will they go to MSRP? Because, like I've talked about, and I'll compare here, 151, those ETBs never really got reprinted at all, right? And I'll show you guys what the prices of those are right now. So if Prismatic Evolutions, if they reprint these ETBs, we'll see if people were right about the MSRP or not. But if they don't reprint the ETBs and they reprint, let's say, other products, the ETB is going to go up in pretty large amounts. And we saw that with 151. But Prismatic Evolutions, obviously, recently has gotten those restocks, not reprints, and that's why we haven't seen prices going up, because, we got more supply. But they weren't from reprints, which is the biggest thing to understand. And you can see right now how quickly from this restock, prices have gone back up. And I feel like this is sort of understated, and people don't really talk about how fast prices are going up from this recent restock. Like if you look at this 3-month chart, right? This is from the restock. This is from the first restock we got, and this is from the Costco drop, right? And from this Costco drop, it's only taken about a week and a half, 2 weeks to start really going back up. It dropped from 110, like 110, 115 to $95, and right now lowest listed is at 108 in just a week and a half, 2 weeks. It was that quick, and those Costco bundles, they were a huge thing, right? Tons of supply. So we're coming off a restock in the Costco bundles, and they're already going back up. And, supposedly also the market is cooling down, which is another thing to talk about. So it shows, the strength with this set. So it will be interesting to see now ETBs. We've gotten two sort of restocks. If they get reprinted, how far they go down. If they don't get reprinted, what happens after? Because I've talked about before how 151, the last time we really saw those ETBs showing up at retail shelves was at Costco with the bundle, with the tin, with Crown Zenith. Crown Zenith also had the same thing with the ETB and the tin. And that was the last time we saw the ETBs really showing up at retail stores. So Prismatic, will it be the same? Will it be different? We will find out. So just here, I guess it's just, I wanted to just throw in the PC ETB, even though it's not really the main part of this video. The PC ETBs right now for Prismatic are like 270, 280. They really haven't gone up. At one point they hit around 300, but since then they've sort of fallen down in price because they skyrocketed pretty quickly. And there's been obviously some pullback and restocks for other products. So I'm not surprised that this one has sort of gone down in value, but still it is higher than what it was at when it did get restocked. Now moving on to the booster bundle. So these also have gotten more supply recently with the Costco bundle, and these have literally gone back basically exactly where they were. Like, look at this. This was from the drop from those Costco bundles, right? Look at how quickly this has gone up. It dropped all the way from 67 to around like 58. So it dropped like $10 in just a week, or a little bit more than a week. It's literally exactly back to where it was. So yeah, those bundles didn't really get affected that much. They're literally just back to where they were just in about a couple of weeks. So the booster bundles, I've talked about this previously. Usually booster bundles get printed pretty frequently. It seems like it's their go-to product to reprint. So I don't think it's really gonna be as interesting to see where these go, because I expect these to get reprinted multiple times. Like, I'm expecting it. This is not that interesting to really talk about, because I think prices are going to fluctuate a ton, just like 151 booster bundles have. So yeah. And lastly here, just to show you guys Prismatic Evolutions and the stat value. While I know, it's still expensive, $5,500. It has been going down. I expect it to keep going down, but still, it is extremely expensive of a set. Now, 151. So I want to show you guys here what happens to products when they don't get reprinted, right? So I talked about, how, for 151, the last time we saw ETBs at retail shelves was from Costco bundles, right? And since then, they have not gotten reprinted. So what has happened to the price of this product because it has not gotten reprinted? Look at this, guys. A year ago, this was just above MSRP, right? At $68. In a year, when it hasn't gotten reprinted, look how much this has gone up because it has not gotten reprinted. Just a straight line up, right? But when you think about it, in the past year, how many products of 151 have gotten restocked? We've gotten Blooming Waters. We got 151 tins at Costco. We got those poster collections recently. We got, what else? We got booster bundles reprinted. But look at this price of this ETB, because this specifically has not been reprinted. Straight up. Because, like I said, it really depends on what product. If you're talking about MSRP, like Prismatic's going to MSRP, you have to talk about the product. Because if they reprint a ton of Prismatic, like other products that aren't ETBs, look at this. The ETBs will still go up. It's just how it works, right? I mean, you can see that with 151. And, yeah, it's just, it just really depends on what they reprint. So it will. That's why for me, it's like the most interesting thing is like, will they reprint ETBs or not? Will they focus on other products? Because if not, Prismatic ETBs in a year from now, think about it. If Prismatic ETBs don't get reprinted for a whole year, even if the market sees a downturn, what will happen to those in a year? Something to think about. So I found it to be very interesting that 151 ETBs have not gotten reprinted in literally a whole year, and prices have been over MSRP for a whole year. It's very surprising, but they have made other products, but that really hasn't affected the ETB price at the end of the day. Now, the PC ETB. I've talked about how I believe prismatic ETBs, PC ETBs, at like 250 under around there is a really good price to buy at. And a big example of that to me is just the 151 PC ETB. I mean, look at this. It's at $500, and I've seen even some selling on eBay for 600. So yeah, these are pretty expensive. This is not a video about PC ETBs, but prismatic PC ETBs at like around 250, around that range, still pretty good to me. And then here I wanted to show you guys this product because 151 booster bundles have been reprinted, I think, multiple times at this point. So like I said, with the prismatic booster bundles, they're not going to be as interesting to look at because I expect them to keep getting reprinted. And you can see here, like these booster bundles for 151, they've been pretty stagnant for the past 6 months because, they just go up and down because, a lot of supply has been added with, reprints and just a lot, just these products get reprinted a lot. You can't see, this was like a huge, I think, reprint that happened here, and these dropped a good bit. So booster bundles, just in my opinion, aren't that interesting because they just go up and down, up and down. It's like that for like pretty much every single booster bundle I've seen for specialty sets, and even I don't know about main sets, but they just usually fluctuate a lot. Booster bundles, not really much to talk about. But if you look at the year chart, still they are up a lot. But definitely, if you compare to the ETB, the percentages are very different. So the booster bundle will probably get printed a lot more for Prismatic Evolutions if I had to guess. And what's interesting about 151 is how expensive the products are, yet the set isn't that expensive, right? The ETB is at $250. The set value, it's at $1,000. The most expensive card is under $200. You look at Prismatic, ETBs right now are like 110, around there, but the total set value is over $5,000. The top chase card's over $1,000, and that's why I always talk about it in perspective. When you think about Prismatic and when it gets to the age of 151, what prices of those ETBs, if they don't get reprinted, what are those going to look like? It's going to be very interesting to see where those go, specifically the ETB, because other products are going to get reprinted and stuff. But the ETB is the big one. If they don't reprint those ETBs for some strange reason, like they didn't with 151, things might get crazy with those prismatic ETBs. And then obviously now, if you're able to buy them just recently for $9,500, it would be seen to be a good deal, because if, let's say theoretically, it follows somewhat of a similar growth pattern to the 151 ETB, or maybe even better. I mean, think about it. 151 ETBs are at $250. If you bought it $9,500, let's say like a year ago or something, like you would be doing extremely well. But this video is just something to think about, and how Prismatic Evolution, since we are after all those just restocks and not really any reprints other than like the surprise boxes, it's going to be interesting to see where those prices go, and if we get reprints, especially with the ETBs, because they are going to reprint Prismatic, but will they reprint the ETB? That's the biggest thing in my opinion that will, I guess, see if people are right about the MSRP thing or not, and we'll see how much Pokemon decides to print of Prismatic Evolutions. So that's all I have for you guys in this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think Prismatic Evolutions in the near future, do you think those ETBs are going to get reprinted? Or do you think it's going to follow maybe a similar suit to 151, where they just print other Prismatic products and they don't touch the ETBs? Because I still find it astonishing that Pokemon has not yet decided to reprint 151 ETBs like I showed you on the graph. They've been over MSRP for a whole year. So you would think by now they would have maybe started printing them, but they haven't. It's the craziest thing to me that they haven't touched on yet. 151 is one of the most, if not the most popular set in Scarlet and Violet. It's brought a lot of people back to Pokemon, and they haven't reprinted the most popular product of the set, which is the ETB. So that's all for you guys here today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.